for ArcGIS. My name is Sue Yeti Goldner, and I work with technology adoption. And today I have Gaia with me. She works in the Community Maps group, and we're both from Esri Canada's Toronto office, where we are presenting live today. Just note that the webinar is being recorded today, and we will send you an email within a couple of days with a link to not only the recording, but a PDF copy of the presentation. So you will have all the information and links we are sharing with you today in this PDF. You don't have to worry about taking too many notes today. We'd also like to hear your thoughts on the webinar today. So there will be a survey. We're asking you to please fill it out upon exiting. You can use our WebEx Q&A to send us questions. Just choose from the Q&A panel to ask all panelists, type in your question and hit send. We'll try and answer questions throughout the webinar, and we will also pause to take questions a couple times and at the end. Just type in your question anytime and we'll try and get to it as soon as we can. So we're going to talk all about the new location tracking capability that works with your ArcGIS organization and help you understand this, how to enable it, how to configure it, how to use the mobile app to capture the information, and also give you some ideas of what types of analysis you can do with this data to gain some insights into your patterns of your mobile users. So just before I get started, I want to ask a question. So I'm opening a poll. I'd like to know if your organization has ever needed to know whether your mobile workers, where they are during the course of their workday. So if you could answer yes or no. And because there is this need, we've developed this location tracking capability. For example, having police know where their offices are to ensure public safety during events, damage assessment after disaster response, did we go out to and get to where we need to go, as well as where we've gone for inspections during the day. Again, see exactly where the work needs to go to be done. So I'm just going to share you with the results. It looks like yes, 61% of you do need to know where your mobile employees are at some point during the day. So that's probably why you're on this webinar, actually. So let's get right into location tracking. You may have seen us show this in our user conferences last fall and in the spring, or at the San Diego UC, but we just want to give you more details today. So again, this capability is enabled for your ArcGIS organization. It lets you record where your mobile users are and where they have been. And again, important to note, it's an organization-wide capability. So this track data can be made available across ArcGIS maps and apps. And if you've used the classic version of Collector or even the Workforce app, you probably know that you could do some type of tracking of where your mobile users are, where they've been. But this capability was limited to be able to use it when those maps are active or those apps are active, and you could only use it with associated maps and projects. So this is something completely new for your ArcGIS organization. It uses a single feature service that manages and stores this mobile user track. And just so you know, what we are showing you today is with ArcGIS Enterprise 10.7 or later, so 10.7, 10.7.1. And ArcGIS Online, it will be, what the availability is September, we're hoping, 2019. Just to let you know, the beta has opened up. And I have the link several times in this page. Please, if you're interested in working with ArcGIS Online, sign up for early adopter. You can enable it in your organization and you can test it yourself. This beta is very fresh. I haven't even been able to get it going for myself. So please sign up for the beta if you are interested in ArcGIS Online, but there will be a lot of similarities between what I'm showing you today and ArcGIS Online. What are the components of location tracking? So it includes the Tracker mobile app, and this works on iOS or Android. And this is an app that efficiently runs in the background to capture your location tracks, and it feeds these tracks directly into the track feature service. The app uses your device GPS to capture tracks, so it works offline as long as you have a GPS signal and you don't have to do anything extra to go offline. It's designed to be efficient with battery use because we know your mobile workers can be in the field for 8–10 hours a day or more, and you can't always recharge. The second component is the Track Viewer web app. So this is where someone like an administrator would go in and set up not only who can view tracks and who can see them, but also set up those different groups for, again, keeping track of your mobile workers. And again, for viewing those tracks, we'll talk in more detail, but it'd typically be a supervisor or a field crew leader that would require access. You don't need to share your mobile worker locations with everything, or no, you wouldn't want to. So just a high-level view of the architecture again, we're looking at ArcGIS Enterprise. Online would be very similar. At the core is your ArcGIS organization and the location tracking feature service to store all the tracks. If you are using this with ArcGIS Enterprise, you do need the big data store because we're dealing with large amounts of data, and that helps you manage that data. You can create different track views of this feature service to share with others. And a view in ArcGIS Online or Enterprise, as you know, it doesn't actually create a copy of the data. It just creates a reference to it. And it allows you to share that original data set with different set of users with alternate settings, such as no editing and hiding attributes and more on. So this track view works just like a regular view in ArcGIS Online or Enterprise. So this track viewer web app, not only for setting things up, but for letting your viewers look at the tracks. You can also take this track view and share it with ArcGIS maps and apps such as Dashboard. For the mobile user, they just need to open that tracker app, turn it on, and then they can forget about it to go about their day. Now, the mobile app will record the tracks whether or not you have a data connection, so cellular or Wi-Fi, again, long as you have a GPS, and it gives the mobile user the control of turning off when they're tracked or when they're not, and I'll show you this in the demo. So in the near future, what we're going to add is that your location tracks can be viewed in our other mobile apps, so Workforce Mobile, the new Collector, and Explorer. The way this tracking will work is it won't be something separate you have to turn on in those apps. It will take the tracks as collected by the tracker app and display them. So in terms of users going about and doing their work in the field, they won't have to do anything extra. These apps are not ready to show it just yet, so I can't show you this, but generally that's the concept of how it will work. So again, the capability, I've given you some of these details. Once you have your enterprise set up with the spatio-temporal big data store, an administrator would enable location tracking. This would create the folder that stores that single feature service that manages your location tracks. And also there is a new view tracks privilege that gets exposed that can be assigned to those people who need to view the tracks. Again, there is security built in that by default, those tracks can't be viewed by anybody. You have to do a couple steps. One, give that view tracks privilege, and two, assign that to particular users and give them that view. By default, the track retention period in your organization is 30 days, but in Enterprise, you can set this to keeping those tracks forever. You just have to keep in mind, one, that you're going to be storing pretty big data sets, and two, it might depend on what your data retention policies are your organization. Tracking can be paused as well as disabled. And again, we can control as an admin how many people can actually view those tracks. And we'll see all of this in action in the first demo. So for your administration, again, just to break down the steps, just to let you know that location tracking, the tracking app itself is a premium app, and it has a low cost per user. And you need to purchase these licenses and then assign those just to those who want to use the tracker app in the field. So once you assign these licenses, then those users are able to open the tracker app and get tracking. Now, the one good thing too about this license is any level of user, from viewer up to creator, can use location tracking, so it's quite cost effective. You only give it to those ones who need to actually track their location. The second step the admin needs to do is assign that track view privilege to users who you want to be able to see the tracks. Again, this may be a completely different set of users from those being tracked. And these are assigned to different roles. I'll actually show you this in the demo. It's a little bit easier to show than talk about. So once we set up those track views, the track view contains the last known location as well as the set of tracks, which are like breadcrumb trails. Again, the track viewer web app administrator creates these and then puts on the list who is the mobile crew to be tracked with that view. So you just add these to the mobile user list as well as who can view the track. So you add these to the track viewer list. And again, you can have multiple track views from multiple teams within your organization. So we're going to go right into the demo, and I'm going to show you first how you configure this in your organization, and two, how you set it up in the track viewer. Okay, so everyone should be able to see my screen now. And I've already signed into my ArcGIS Enterprise organization here, and I am actually the track administrator for this group. So if we just go to our organization settings and have a look where tracking is enabled. So just go drill down to our settings here. You can see at the bottom, location tracking is here. And you can see that I've already turned it on, and I've decided to retrain my tracks for always. Again, if you had a shorter retention period, you could always take that track data and export it to another feature layer, and you would have it then for your needs. Since I've already turned on tracking, I could go right to the track viewer, but I just wanted to talk about, again, the steps. You have to identify who should view the tracks in the viewer app, and then go to the roles tab and add those privileges to the roles. So just an example, the default administrator role, so anyone who's an administrator, if you've added them to that track view, can view the tracks. But I've created 2 custom roles. I've created a publisher tracker role. So there's this one privilege you need to add when you create a custom role, and it's this view location tracks you see highlighted on the screen. So anyone with that role can then view the tracks. Again, I can pause location tracking. What pause does, it keeps your tracks, but it remains in read only, and mobile users can't collect any new tracks. If I actually disable location tracking, any items associated with the location tracking, so our views, our services, and so on, are actually deleted. So you'd probably only want to do that if you completely don't want to do it anymore. I mentioned the licensing. So again, tracking licensing are for the users who want to actually use the mobile app on their devices to track. So I've already have my licenses provisioned. They're just down here on the bottom here. Tracker for ArcGIS, I've assigned all 20. Again, the nice thing about this is any level of user from viewer up, so any on these roles here, any of these roles can have a tracking license, and I can assign them and unassign them as needed. So again, it is very cost effective. So the Track Viewer app, I'm just going to show you a little bit of setup before I continue with the slides here. Our app launcher here, once we've set up tracking, we can switch over to the app launcher. Again, it's going to prompt me to sign in. So there is security on who can create these. These are administrator roles to create these track views. There's a new create view option here. I've already created one for my team. We only have one in my case just because this is just really for testers in our Esri organization here. And again, those 2 different tabs, who are the mobile users? So all the people on this list have a tracker license, and they can collect tracks. Now, my track viewer list, to be honest, is the same list, but realistically, you'd probably maybe only want my supervisor, Chris North, to have a view of all these people or a crew leader, so I could remove them and add them as necessary. So once I've done this, I'll show you the tracker app in the next demo. It's actually very basic, but I just want to talk a little bit about collecting tracks and so on before we get back to this. So I'm just going to stop sharing and go back to the PowerPoint and talk a little bit about the mobile app. So again, your field workforce would use the Tracker mobile app to track their location. It stores tracks in points, and it works locally on your mobile device using a SQLite database that gets installed when Tracker is installed. It's very simple and lightweight, designed for low battery usage and efficiency, uses your GPS to capture points. Now, if you have a high accuracy GPS device associated with your device, Tracker will use that accurate location, but at this time that GNSS metadata is not captured for the point, but it does use the more accurate location. So tracks are uploaded regularly, and we'll talk a bit more about the details. After 72 hours on your device, they are removed. They are just removed from that SQLite database on your device, but they are in the feature service. If you are offline longer than 72 hours, it will keep them in the SQLite database until they're uploaded. And upload of tracks requires a cellular or Wi-Fi connection. So again, you can collect your tracks as long as you have a GPS signal. You need Wi-Fi or cellular to upload. Just to talk a minute about security, users can only view their own tracks within the app on their device because it uses ownership-based control. So Again, the user has to be signed in, enable tracking, and editor tracking stores this information with the track location for that feature service for all those points. If a user would sign out of the tracker mobile app, the data in the SQLite database is removed. So again, it's been uploaded. If someone else signed in on your device, they couldn't see your tracks anymore. And other users of the app on the same device wouldn't have access to those tracks. So again, as I mentioned, what's coming is Tracker because it's designed to work in the background. These tracks will be just something you can turn on and off in Workforce, the new Collector and Explorer. The mobile user just has to turn on Tracker, collect tracks, and it will be made available in those devices for when they need it. So the mobile app, just a couple more details. Again, the mobile user is in full control. They have to turn tracking on and off. You can't turn it on or off as part of your organization on their behalf. They just need to download the device from the appropriate app store, and they will be prompted when they initially open Tracker. They have to agree to allow tracking. So with the iOS devices, depending on what you use, with iOS, you can set up a reminder, and it will give you a notification to turn tracking on and off, so you can set it up just to track during your workday. With Android, you can use the phone scheduler app, and Tracker uses the core motion framework on iOS and detected activity on Android to capture some of the information. What about the frequency of upload? Again, points are stored locally in that SQLite database on your device, uploaded every 10 minutes. If your device is charging and your battery is greater than 20%, a track would be loaded every minute. So this use case would be you're charging your phone in your vehicle. So then it's every minute. There's also an Upload Now button, so anytime your mobile users could click it and upload their points, even if that 10-minute interval wasn't met. The second point is the last known location. So that's the last known location of your mobile user. Uploaded every 30 to 60 seconds. You can set that. So again, we've tested Tracker in areas without cellular or Wi-Fi. As long as we have a GPS, we can capture location. We get funny results on airplanes. So depending if you have a GPS signal, it doesn't work so good on subways. But the point with this is that the Tracker app, if it can capture a point, it won't filter it out. So even points with bad accuracy are collected. You can filter this out on your own with the Track Viewer, or actually use geoprocessing tools to process your data and remove it. So we felt it was important to capture all the data with Tracker, and you choose what you want to keep or discard. Again, the licensing, a Premier app, you purchase a license per user, and it works with any user type. So using those track views, and that will be the second part of my next demo. And this is designed for a supervisor. They can open a track view. They can see where their users currently are. By default, the track view just shows the last 8 hours, but you can change this. You can see the details, and you can highlight individual user tracks. There's different filters for looking at user data for different time spans, as well as accuracy levels. And you can also filter on speed and activity. And again, the activity is what's determined by the motion APIs of your device. We don't offer options to change that because it's coming right from your device. So just before I launch into the next demo, just wanted to talk a little bit about the schema for location tracking. So for those layers, it is available to you, and the link on this page takes it to you. You may not want to look at this, but if you want to understand how this data works, have a look at this link. So again, those two layers, the location tracking feature layer collects the breadcrumb trails, and as well as the last known location of users. You can take a look and see how these layers are structured if you want to. Okay, so now I'm going to switch to my next demo, and I'm going to show you using that Tracker mobile app, as well as looking at the tracks we've collected with the Track Viewer app. So let's share my screen again. Okay, that looks good. And we should be able to see my phone. It might take a second. There we go. So you can see the Tracker mobile app in the lower corner of my phone. I'm going to turn it on, and you can see when I expand the panel, there's an option to turn tracking on or off. So again, if I was the mobile user, I've downloaded the Tracker app from the appropriate app store. I would be prompted two things. I would have to allow Tracker to access my motion and fitness activity. If I say no, it can't record my location. I can also allow Tracker to send me notifications. If I want to have a notification, for example, that scheduling I was talking about that I'll show you, I would allow that as well. So again, this is track data in that SQLite database locally on my device. You can see that I can see today, I can see yesterday, up to the last 72 hours. It looks like lines, but as I mentioned, it is actually points. If I zoom in enough, you should be able to see my direction of travel. Again, we felt this was important to include it, that in case someone's doing an inspection around a building or out in the field, they need to know which way they actually traveled. But I can click on any point, and it will pop up the timestamp of when that point was collected and my information, again, collected from my core motion device of my iOS, for example. So my driving speed, my accuracy, and also you can see it displays my locations. You can change the coordinates. This is, again, because some people needed to know their exact coordinates for whatever reason. So there's not much to the tracker app. There are a couple of settings I can show you. So you can see the reminders here. So let's say my workday, I can just change that time and a reminder will pop up. I will have to turn tracking on and off here. Coordinates I can change to different systems, again, depending on what you need. Switching between light and dark mode just makes it easier to see if we're navigating at night. Last known location, again, the default is 30 seconds, but you can change it to 60 seconds. So this is just a point layer that shows where you last were located. So if I sign out of Tracker right now and I close it, it would show my last known location or where I was before I did that. Again, that upload now button, so you can see that my last upload was 2 minutes ago. So I could just click that and have all my track data uploaded right now. Say I knew it was going offline and I wanted to make sure my location was recorded. Now the smart rendering is just something that it's turned on by default. It'll only draw tracks using high quality points. If I turn it off, you'll see it looks quite different here. When I'm in the building, so you can see I get some really crazy points, and I wasn't like hopping over the river, but these points up here, you can see that I have a horrible accuracy, like 1,400 meters. Again, we're capturing all that data with tracking. You can filter it out, and we just wanted to make sure we captured it so you can decide what you want to keep and you don't want to keep. So that's it. So long as I have this track my location button on and off, it's currently tracking my location. So let's take a look here at, let me just pull over this. Sorry, my screen sharing is giving me a little bit of issue here. I have to hide my, there we go. Okay, so let's take a look at our track views. I'm going to open tracks. Again, this is what I created earlier today. You can see the list of users that are being tracked in this view on the list here. You can see the default time period, 8 hours. We're tracking users across Canada, but I know at present that I think Chris and I were the ones who are recording our tracks. So you can see as I zoom in, the little happy cat face is my user profile. So my current location is in the office. These are the tracks that were recorded in the last 8 hours. So again, if I turn users on and off, I can see Chris North and I can see his last known location. I can also see myself here. You can see my lovely long commute to the office. But if I zoom in, again, we can get the same information just for a different set of users now from this tracker app, the web app. So again, it's displayed as lines. It's actually points here. Same information, including my battery state, whether I was walking or driving, and accuracy and direction. I could cycle through the points that were captured on my commute today. Again, there's the filters, not only by user, but by time period. You can set up to 72 hours, and this is just a viewing app. So there's more data that exists, but we're just viewing it. Custom start and stop. Again, I mentioned you can filter out the accuracy. So let's say we only want to have 21 meters. That should get rid of those bizarre points. Oh, there's Gaia. She popped up too. She has tracker on. So that should filter out those bizarre points that we're getting weird accuracies when we're in the elevator or deep in the building. You can also do speed filters as well as those different types of activities. So that's basically it for the track viewer. It's quite basic, but again, the first part was the mobile app. Those are your mobile users. They can only see themselves. They have control of tracking. The second part would be like a field crew supervisor. They can view what's going on in this viewer application. So I'm just going to go back and see if we have any questions. I'm just going to bring up my Q&A. So I have a couple questions about what level user do the mobile users need to be in order to track them. Again, because tracking is a premium license, it can be assigned to any level of user. So they can be a viewer, an editor, a creator, any level you can put that tracking license on. So if you don't want to have if you only have a viewer and all we need to track, that's fine, that works. Again, I got a question about the GNSS. Yes, if you have a GNSS, the tracking app will use the better accuracy, and I recommend if you would like to test this, sign up for the beta. But yes, it will actually take that more accurate location. Can you capture points based on distance travel, or is it all time related? It's basically a breadcrumb trail with a timestamp. So you could use some tools to look at that, but it is capturing the XY location and the timestamp, and it is displaying as a line in just the different apps. How hard it is on battery life? What I heard is tests where people were using it in the field all day and had it on all day. It drained their battery by 20 to 30%, having it on all day, just the tracker app itself. The tracker licenses, again, they're not included with Enterprise. Even with Enterprise, you do have to purchase it separately and provision it. I got another question about using it with ArcGIS Online. Will it need a portal or spatiotemporal data store? No, in Online it will not, although I haven't worked with it. I've been told it will just be handled in ArcGIS Online. It will handle that whole back end. And you show how it will track when you're not in cellular or Wi-Fi range. Again, to capture a point, it uses GPS. It doesn't need cellular or Wi-Fi. We've tested this. I've tested it hiking in Algonquin Park. It captured my track perfectly. It didn't upload my track till I actually got off the trail and had a cellular or Wi-Fi signal near the highway. So as long as you have a GPS, it will work. Using Enterprise versus ArcGIS Online for long-term storage, I think that decision is more what your organization needs. I mentioned ArcGIS Online. It will only retain your tracks for 30 days. You could export those tracks after 30 days into another layer if you want to keep them. That is a storage issue. I didn't show it in the demo, but we did collect 1 million points for a handful of users since April. So it's quite a big data collection effort. I'll answer one more question before I hand it over to Gaia, and I will answer your questions kind of one-off while Gaia is doing her presentation. What is the frequency of points collected in seconds? The upload of points is every 10 minutes, or if you're plugged in, again, and your battery is greater than 20%, then it's every 1 minute. There are no options to set that right now, but basically that's what it is. So again, I'll try to answer more questions. We'll take more questions at the end. But I do want to hand it over to Gaia because she's going to talk all about different kinds of analysis you can do with this track layer.
Thank you, Sue. So there's a lot more we can do besides being able to track your workforce in the field and see where they've been and where they are. We've got a rich set of attributes that we can use to delve right in and perform various analysis to extract a great deal of useful information. We can see what others can't. So visualizing the track points on the map and looking at the attributes in the table gives us something, but not everything. However, making the attributes work with each other and manipulating the data a little bit will give us a bit more of a wholesome story. So some of the most useful attributes that will yield us a more comprehensive story are username, speed, activity, created date, and location timestamp. I fed these attributes into our operations dashboard to give us a better understanding of what's going on with these tracks. So let's go take a look. Sorry, I just have to share my screen. Okay, there we are. So here's the raw data collected using our app, and we can see who's been where and the attributes for each point. To give us a better picture, I've created a track line using our geoanalytics server tool called Reconstruct Tracks. So I'll cover that tool later on in the webinar. Now let's take a quick look at our widgets. The first widget prompts you to pick a user, and doing so, you can just look at one individual person's tracks, and if you leave it unselected, you can look at the whole team's tracks. And here we also have date and time picker, so you can narrow it down to the date and time, and it'll just filter all the information in the dashboard to that selected range. We also have other widgets like the legend, number of tracks, speed information, maximum speed, average speed. We also have track points by activity, so you can filter by a particular activity and get information, for example, the average speed for walking. And the next widget is tracks by user. So this is the percentage of tracks contributed by each user in our team. So this particular dashboard was built because I'm running a special school program between the months of May and July. It's a whole day program and happens at a couple of different locations throughout the day. So I've arranged school bus services for the children. As we know, children are precious and their safety is very important. So this dashboard is shared with the school program, bus services, emergency services, and helps ensure their location and safety at all times. In case a child goes missing during this period, we can look at the child's specific bus route, for example. And we also have every bus route's historic data, which means we can narrow it down to the date the child went missing. And we can even filter it further down to the time range when the child was supposed to have been on the bus. So when we look at the specific date and time range, then we know the exact route the child has been on, and this will help us further in our investigation. Also, in order to serve emergency situation, I've added a data layer to this dashboard that contains all the emergency facilities, like ambulance facilities, fire station, and police facilities in the city of Toronto. I've gone a step further and used the Find Nearest tool in ArcGIS Online to just extract the facilities that are within about 5-minute driving range of our regular bus routes. So in case of emergency, if the bus driver or a child calls, the shared dashboard can be seen by the emergency services as well, and they can locate the bus using our last known location layer. And once they locate the bus, they can identify an emergency facility that's within 5 minutes and send help immediately, or they can even look up an EMS facility that's nearby and give the address to the driver. So this dashboard helps us find solutions out there in the real world within minutes. We can also track driver behavior from our speed widget over here. So let me go back to a previous date, and this vehicle is carrying children, and it's important that our drivers have a good driving habit because we don't want them to be speeding and putting our children at risk. But as you can see in this particular case, our driver is going at 123, which is significantly above a highway speed limit. So speeding, again, putting our children at risk is not a good thing. So it helps us monitor that and issue warnings to our drivers to get them back on good behavior. So those were a few examples of how Tracker for ArcGIS and Operations Dashboard can be brought together to elevate location intelligence. There is more analysis you can do with the track data. So we all know our track data provides us with time information. Now we can not only do spatial analysis, but we can also do temporal analysis. And what better tool set to leverage time information than the geoanalytics server tool? The geoanalytics server can handle big data. You can even put 1 million points through it for seamless processing. It takes advantage of multiple machines to improve and speed up the process. It comes in handy when dealing with large data sets that go through complex analysis. And speaking of complex analysis, geoanalytics server tools have built-in time functions that help us include time stepping and summarizing into our analysis. improving analytics management and insightfulness from a temporal perspective. So this is all made possible by having a spatio-temporal data store working with the geoanalytics server rather than a regular relational data store. So let's go and explore a couple of these tools using our track data. Okay, so here I have a set of track points collected, and I want to turn them into track lines like I've mentioned earlier in the webinar. So I'm going to go to my GeoAnalytics toolset and select Reconstruct Tracks. So I want to reconstruct my track points. Choose one or more fields to identify tracks. So this is going to be the field that you think commonly identifies the points that you want as part of each track. In my case, that would be created user. Going to leave the next couple of fields as default, and we get to split tracks. So if you don't choose anything here, it'll create one really long track for each user. If you're tracking people within a very short period of time, this might work, but usually won't be ideal when tracking people over multiple hours, days, or weeks. So I'm going to go ahead and select Define Time Intervals and split my time bins into 10 minutes, starting at the beginning of July. So what's happening here is time is being broken into chunks of 10 minutes, and data that falls within each of those time bins are combined together to make a track line. Let's go and rename this track lines, and then you can run analysis. So for the purpose of this webinar, I've already run my analysis, so let's go and take a look at my track lines. Zoom into an area. So you can see the track points under the track line. So these are the points that were joined together sequentially based on their timestamp to create this track line. So the next thing I want to do is derive speed summaries along the tracks. I'm going to do it by segmenting the entire path into bins and then summarizing my track points within each bin to give me the mean speed at that location. So the first thing I need to do is create a buffer around my track points. This is a simple analysis, so I've just gone ahead and created this buffer. And now that I have an area around my points, I want to break this area into smaller bins so I can get a better understanding of speed at different locations. So in order to get my bins, I'm going to go generate tessellation. So you can choose a shape of your choice, and we're going to create bins around our buffer and only keeping intersecting tessellations. What it does, it clips the tessellations to just the buffer root. And pick my distance, give it a name, and then you run your analysis. So this is what my bin looks like. And those are the points right under the bin. So the points that fall within each bin will get summarized for their speed within those bin locations. So let's go ahead and start summarizing them. So in my GeoAnalytics tools, I will go to Summarize Within, and I'll choose the bin that I just created. I'm going to summarize my track point data, and the summary that I want is on the speed, and I want the mean of speed. So let's go ahead and call this mean speed. And once you run the analysis, you can go ahead and check your results. Let me bring on the legend. So as you can see, the mean speed here is very low, and as you move up DVP, it keeps increasing, and along Highway 401, it really picks up. So let's zoom into an area to study what's going on there. This is Highway 401, so the speed limit is 100 kilometers per hour, but we see all sorts of different speeds. We see 33, 114, 125, and then back to 52. I'm starting to think this might be due to traffic at different times, so I want to get an average speed by the hour. Again, back to my GeoAnalytics tools, and this time I'm going to summarize attributes, and I'm going to summarize it by field. So I'm going to pick hour, and summarize my mean speed. So mean speed by hour. Again, I've already run the analysis, so I have my summary table here. This is my summary. I'm going to sort it by the hour. And as you can see, at 8 a.m., it's 60 kilometer per hour is the mean speed. So again, traffic, so it makes sense, and it drops significantly around 9 a.m. So this is the time when people are sitting in bumper-to-bumper traffic. And around 4 p.m., it's about decent speed, and it keeps dropping again throughout rush hour and picks up again at 9 p.m. So in this particular case, traffic affecting the speed is pretty obvious, especially rush hour time. So you can take this analysis and apply it to another scenario outside of traffic hours to see if there's variance in driving behavior that's specific to your scenario or your case study, or even study any other attributes that you'd like. One last tool I want to show is the detect incidents tool. I want to look at just the incidents with a speed of over 115 kilometer per hour and want to see where the speeding happens the most. So back to my geoanalytics tool set and detect incidents. I'll be studying my track points again, and my ID field again is going to be created user. I'm going to build the expression speed greater than 115. And I want to see only the incident data. And again, I'm breaking my time into 10-minute bins. What this does is it only processes data within those 10-minute bins, which actually speeds up the process for me. I'm going to close that. And after you run the analysis, again, you can go back and turn on your results. So I've symbolized the results as heat map to see where the speeding happens the most. So as we can see, it happens towards the end of Scarborough leading into Pickering. So this is the end of the city. This is usually where the traffic dies down a little and makes it easier for people to speed. So if you were in a police department, for example, and you want to install speed cameras or even set up police patrol around that area, that would be an ideal area to do so. So these are just a few of the analyses you can perform on your track data using geoanalytics server tools. Here we focused mostly on speed, but you can take these analyses and apply to different scenarios and study different attributes. So that'll be all from me. Thank you, and I'll pass it back to Sue.
Thank you, Gaia. So you can see that what I showed earlier, the tracker app itself is very basic. It's just designed to be efficient and easy to use and just sit on your mobile device, collect your tracks. But as Gaia showed, you can do a lot more with analysis. And we looked at the speeding scenario, and I was thinking this sort of could be my commute, but I never can hit over 100 because I commute on the Gardner Expressway. But this is just interesting because you can see all kinds of insights into the activity of your mobile users. And there's a lot more you can do. And the dashboard, again, is a really good way to take those track layers, which are just feature layers, and put them into an easy-to-view application that someone like a supervisor can just use filters, turn things on and off, and get that information at your fingertips. So thank you, Gaia. So what I just want to do to wrap up our webinar is let you know what's going on. So I mentioned ArcGIS Enterprise Tracker first came out in January of this year. The 10.7.1 update was in June. Just to keep in mind, if you are using location tracking, the mobile apps get regularly updated, and they are now on your store, so your app store. So you can go there and download the latest version because it does offer more support each release. ArcGIS Online, a release is scheduled for September, but the beta is open now. And I just wanted to just share my screen for a second just to show you the location of some of those beta tracking information. So once you sign up for the beta, and again, just go to Esri Early Adopter and you'll see a list of projects and you'll be asked to send an email and then you'll be contacted to set it up and you'll be able to set it up in your own organization. And yes, you are given licenses to test. This is a really good way that if you have a lot of questions about how it works and how it works for your organization, I encourage you to at least test it because then you can find that out. And then there's also user forums here that are really useful, especially when you're doing a beta test. The team will directly answer your questions. So the beta page is here, so please sign up again. And also some of the links I've given you, the tracking FAQ page, it also has the email of the tracking team directly. So if you have some feedback for them, you can provide it to them because they are trying to improve how the app works and your feedback is really important. But this tracker page, these FAQs are really helpful. A lot of your questions I've tried to answer during the webinar, just kind of either talking or one-on-one, and your questions may be answered right in here. So let me just go back to the PowerPoint and give you a couple more resources here. So again, the support for using the tracks in the mobile app, it's coming. I'm really waiting for this too, and I will be showing it somewhere or another at a user conference or something else as soon as I can do that capability because I'm really excited about that. So just a few more resources. Yeah, we've covered what we can kind of tell you about tracking, how to get it set up and configure it for your organization, get those licenses provisioned, how to set up the viewer app for people who need to actually view those tracks. You had a look at how simple the mobile app is, but it does work quite well, and we have tested it quite a bit here, so we kind of know how it works. Also, Gaia went one step beyond. Again, those tracks are available to you in your organization. You can put them in a map viewer. You can open them up in Pro. You can do the analytics in Pro. You can do the analytics in Online or Enterprise. And you can derive a lot more meaning about that track data from your organization. So again, the resources page, all the links will be in that PDF, taking you to, we have a landing page for Tracker, which gives some case studies that are interesting, and you could read about when people were using it and why. The documentation for the Tracker app, as well as ArcGIS Online for kind of how it's managed and how you provision it. And there's also a lot of good information on our blog. So Esri Canada blogs have usually some posts, but also the Esri blogs will have the latest information, again, directly from the product team, so you can see what's going on and just search on Tracker for ArcGIS. And there's also a couple of videos out there on Esri's YouTube channel and our own Esri Canada YouTube channel. And again, one more thing, you may be familiar with GeoNet, which is our community online of both Esri staff and you, our users. It's a great place to find out not only what's new, but for you to ask your questions and learn and get your questions answered. And I find a lot of information there. Excuse me. So if you're familiar with that, there is a Tracker for ArcGIS page. And there's a lot of new stuff came out from San Diego a couple weeks ago. You can access that from the GeoNet page. And again, I'm emphasizing sign up for early adopter. You can test it in your own ArcGIS online organization. You don't need Enterprise. You can see how it works. So just a couple more resources. We are coming up to our fall UC season, so I will definitely be showing you more of location tracking. And if there's one near you, I encourage you to sign up because there's lots of great information there and you can network with all your colleagues. Some upcoming webinars, they're not about Tracker, but they might be about other topics you're interested in, especially the new ArcGIS story maps are awesome, and there's going to be a webinar on that on August 8th. We have some mobile-related training courses. Tracking is not part of that just yet, but if you're interested in other mobile apps, you can have a look at that. And also, there's a field data collection one that may be interesting. So again, this recording will be available, although we're going to send you a link. All our webinars are recorded at our resources link that's on this page, and you can just sign in and you can watch it, and you'll have a PDF copy of the slides. I put up both our email. If you have some questions that you weren't able to answer or we didn't get to, please contact us. And I just wanted to answer a few more questions that came in. Someone asked about